Hey guys, I'm Rich from Neowin, and today we're unboxing the Lenovo ThinkPad X12 Detachable. So this is an interesting product, right? So this was announced. Alongside the X1 Carbon, the X1 Yoga, the X1 Titanium Yoga. So it was announced alongside the new X1 family, right? And other than the X1 Extreme and the X1 Fold, but it wasn't called X1, which is kind of interesting on its own because there was a rumor that there was going to be a new X1 tablet this year. The last tablet ThinkPad that we've seen was the X1 tablet in 2018. In fact, in this reviewer's guide that I'm looking at, it actually says this is the first detachable form factor since in a ThinkPad since 2018. So the screen is a little bit smaller at 12.3 inches. I don't know why, by the way. I don't know why they called it this instead of an X1. Maybe it's because it's a little smaller. Maybe it's because they still have an X1 coming. Who knows? Who knows? And I don't even want to go too deep into speculating with that, right? But it's cool, right? Because it's something different. A lot. I review so many ThinkPads, and a lot of them are just so similar to each other that it's so easy to just kind of get caught up in that. But this is something that's a little different. This is a tablet, and this is 12.3 inches, so same size screen as a Surface Pro. And what's different though about this though is that anyone can buy it. That's one thing. The keyboard also comes in the box. Not that really. You're getting better pricing. Like I say, anyone can buy it. By the way, because you got to remember the Surface Pro 7 Plus, which is the one with 11th gen processors, is a business only product. Now, this is aimed at businesses, but like all ThinkPads, anybody can go ahead and buy one. So yeah, that's the tablet that's in that piece of plastic right there. I'm just trying to get all the pieces out first because there are a few. And now we got something else. This is going to be the charger over here. I assume something fell, which is probably either a pen or a battery. So yeah, this is our usual 65 watt brick that we've seen so many times. And we're just going to keep this in the box. Makes things a lot easier on me. Now let's go see what I just dropped on the floor. It is the pen. Okay, so it is a pen with a quadruple A battery right in the packaging there. And there's good and bad to that. I really appreciate the pen method that they use on, say, the X1 Yoga, where the pen is actually built into the product. There's a pen garage, and it gives you a smaller pen though. So like this is a full size pen, so it's a matter of preference. What I like though is rechargeable pens, and that like quadruple A batteries like this, they don't really sell them at your local drugstore. They're not hard to find, but you got to go to like a Best Buy or something to find these things, and it's kind of a pain point, because when the battery dies, and it's just not fun. Versus, say, if you have something that's rechargeable where you can just plug it in for literally 10-15 seconds and get the usage out of it that you need, or even better, something where like it's magnetically charging, right? Where something like Apple's Pencil. So this is the tablet right here. Now, the processor that we have in here is actually the Core i5 1140 G7, which is interesting to me because that's it's a little rare, and it's also a little interesting. And you know what? I gotta spend a little bit of time on this. Sorry if you don't care about processors, but I do have to spend a little bit of time on this. Core i5 1140 G7. So this is from the family that would have been known previously as Y series. Okay, we got a little pen loop. I haven't seen a pen loop in ages. Okay, it would have been known previously as Y series. Okay, and previously Y series, what's the word? Sucked. Okay, if something like an HP Spectre Folio or an Acer Swift 7, they were made for fanless PCs, but they had to be throttled so much to get there. Okay. And they were dual core, not good. So Fast forward to 10th gen, right? Because the last one that we actually seen was Amber Lake, which was 8th gen, and that's the Spectre Folio, like I said, in the Swift 7. Fast forward to 10th gen, like we had on the U series side, there was Comet Lake and Ice Lake. Comet Lake is the old 14 nanometers, the regular incremental improvements and stuff. Comet Lake Y existed. I never saw one. I never actually saw one in a review unit, and I review a lot of products. Ice Lake Y, to my knowledge, never shipped, except for in like the MacBook Air. And that was supposed to come with Iris Plus graphics, quad core, higher TDP. It was very, very promising. Supposed to be very cool. Never shipped on a Windows PC, to my knowledge. Now we have Tiger Lake. It's not called Y Series anymore, but this is what would have been Y Series, and it's actually very good. And so I've seen this in the ThinkPad X1 Nano. I've seen how it works in the ThinkPad X1 Titanium Yoga, and I enjoy it a lot, although I really can't comment on the performance of the device because it's a pre-production unit. But anyway, I'm very impressed with these processors so far. And so that's what we have here. And the other reason I have to spend a little bit of time on this is because the units that are in the Surface Pro 7 Plus, you'll find like the Core i7 1165 G7. And if there's a 5 at the end, that means it's what would have been known as U series. And if there's a 0 at the end, that's what would have been known as Y series. So if you think of this as a Y series chip, it is, it's a bummer a little bit, because you got to remember, even the last gen ThinkPad X1 tablet had a U series processor. So again, I know some people really just aren't interested in the things I'm saying right now, but it's worth commenting on the product and in the context of the market of Windows tablets, because there aren't a lot of Windows tablets. And so you look and like, I remember when I distinctly remember reviewing the last X1 tablet and commenting about how it's better than a Surface Pro because it has things like Thunderbolt, an 8th gen processor, which the Surface Pro did not have at the time. And it's a small market, but so it's important to look at that kind of context, especially when you have 12.3 inch display, lower resolution than a Surface, which is 1920 by 1280. We got Windows 10 Pro up to 16 gigs of RAM, up to a Core i7 1160 G7. By the way, I gotta spend a little bit more time on the processor, I'm sorry. But the G7 is the graphics power. You'll notice that the i7 and the i5 have the same G7. That doesn't mean the same thing. For 10th gen it did when it was Iris Plus. For Iris Xe it doesn't. The Core i7 actually has 96 EUs. And the Core i5 actually has 80 execution units. So there is a slight difference. Either of them are better than the Iris Plus we had last year. Iris Xe is pretty awesome. I made it a point to move to the close-up of the product because I am very aware that I just talked your ear off about CPUs. So that's why we're here. All right. So you can see Iris Xe graphics, Core i5s. It's got the stickers that you want. Intel puts these stickers on here for branding, but it's also so you can see it has the stuff you want. You want Iris Xe. Iris Xe is very good. There's a lot of graphics power there, so it's pretty cool. We can open this up. We have a kickstand, like you would expect. Opens up to whatever angle you want. Although it doesn't, it's fine. But by the way, 2 generations ago on the X1 tablet, which I guess is the 2017 model, it actually had a kickstand that folded back like this, which was a bit of a pain point, actually. Okay, so you look at the logo here. It is that silver ThinkPad logo, which is reserved for the non-X1 lineup. X1 gets like a glossy black ThinkPad logo, or the X1 Titanium Yoga actually has a very cool silver one. But anyway, so being that this is not an X1, it's got that particular logo. Like I said, it's got a pen loop. I did not see that coming because I haven't seen a pen loop in ages, maybe even since the last X1 tablet. So that's interesting to me. The thing is, as far as pen storage goes, I really am a fan of the way that the X1 Yoga works with the Pen Garage, and it works better that way to me because, like, if you don't use the pen a lot, this just kind of gets in the way when you're holding it. For magnetic ones, it just tends to fall off in your bag. So that's a pain point. To me, it's just easier to always have it with you and always have it charged. We've got what appears to be a volume rocker down here. So yeah, there's the volume rocker. Switch to this side over here. We've got two USB Type-C ports, which are super spaced apart for some reason. And so we've got Thunderbolt 4 up here. We've got USB 3.2 Gen 2 down here, which is, it's a shame. I'd have liked to see two Thunderbolt 4 ports. I guess we're really starting to see why it's not an X1 product, right? But 3.2 Gen 2 gets you 10 gigabits per second, which is twice as much as 3.2 Gen 1. Sadly, we're seeing way too much 3.2 Gen 1 in products even today. So I'm happy to see 3.2 Gen 2. I'm not happy to see that it's not Thunderbolt 4 in this bottom slot. Thunderbolt 4 is pretty awesome. You could connect this to two 4K displays just on that one port. It's pretty wild. You could do that with Thunderbolt 3 on some of them, but there was no way to know if you were buying a PC that could do it. So with Thunderbolt 4, you could do it on all of them. Over here, we have what appears to be an nano SIM slot. It does have optional cellular. And so usually there's just a slug there. So it looks like Lenovo actually sent me the cellular unit. And what's really cool is Lenovo is starting to send out more cellular review units, which is just the best. Okay, and then over here we've got a 3.5 millimeter audio jack. So let's look at the keyboard. It looks, want to guess what it looks like? Like in your mind, when I flip this open, you want to guess what you think this keyboard is going to look like? You know what it's going to look like. It's going to look like a ThinkPad keyboard. It's going to look like it's going to have a red track point right in the middle of it. It's going to have a touchpad that's clickable, but also has physical buttons above it. 3 physical buttons, and it's going to have a fingerprint sensor to the right of that. It's all stuff we've seen before. Right, there's no difference here. ThinkPad keyboards are ThinkPad keyboards, and by the way, quality keyboards too. This is going to be awesome. I can't wait. But you know, the track point, it's a relic from the ages of when, from the days of when Windows touchpads were not good, and so they keep it around. Some people love it. Some people hate it. So it's there. You can ignore it if you don't like it. You know, so that's the keyboard, and obviously it's detachable. It props up against the display just like a Surface Pro keyboard would. You could also lie it flat if that's what you choose to do. And yeah, connects through a series of pins, just like it's not the same connector as a Surface Pro type cover, but it is similar, right? You know what? I would have liked to have seen a pen garage in the keyboard. That if this is too thin of a... I keep shouting out the X1 Yoga for its pen garage because it's so awesome. This is not the kind of device where you can really do something like that because it is just too thin and light. It's a tablet. I mean, but you could do something like that in the keyboard like Microsoft did with the Surface Pro X. I did just boot this guy up, and like I said, we've got a full HD plus display, so it's 1920 by 1280. So that is actually 3:2, so that's the same aspect ratio as a Surface. It does appear to have smaller bezels than a Surface, though, because Surface does have huge bezels. We've got a privacy guard in the webcam up here, and so that's something that we can just close, and that's a nice physical shutter for the camera so no one can spy on you and you don't have to put a piece of tape over it or anything like that. So that's there. And yeah, there's not much to say about the display because it's just it's the display. So this guy weighs in at 1 2/3 pounds without the keyboard, which is fairly impressive. I mean, it's 1.67. A Surface Pro, the Core i5 Wi-Fi only model is 1.7 pounds. It's the lightest one. It goes up to 1.75 with the i7. So that's pretty impressive, 1.67. And it's 2.4 pounds with the keyboard attached, which is still pretty impressive because you got a full keyboard right there, a full computer right there that's just very thin and light, and of course running Windows 10 Pro. So yeah, I mean, pretty cool machine, and it's cool because it's different. We're starting to see Lenovo experiment with more form factors on its ThinkPad line, and Lenovo doesn't screw around when it comes to ThinkPads, because when you see a ThinkPad come out, it's going to be a quality machine. It's all about quality, right? So that's why I was so excited for the X1 Fold, because that was the foldable screen PC. And what's so cool about that is, like, it's going to be good. It's not just going to break, because all ThinkPads pass a dozen mil-spec tests. And then they did the X1 Nano. They went super thin and light. They chopped it down, and like they did what they could to get it under 2 pounds, which was wild. And then you have the X1 Titanium Yoga, which is sort of the same thing they're doing with the X1 Nano, but for a convertible, right? So they're doing something entirely different there, and it's really cool. They're making some really cool innovations, and now they're bringing back the tablet. So like 2 years ago, I felt like when they killed off the tablet, like when they didn't introduce a new one in 2019, and it felt like they were getting a lot more conservative with what they were putting in the ThinkPad lineup, because you had the X1 Carbon, you had the X1 Yoga, and then you had the mainstream ThinkPads, which are really just lesser versions of the X1 Carbon and the X1 Yoga. And then they gave us the X1 Extreme later, which was something a little different, but it's still, conservative. So like we're seeing a lot of cool stuff now, and that's pretty exciting. So anyway, guys, I'll have a review on this in a few weeks, so stay tuned. I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.